Good afternoon, and welcome to another Wednesday edition of the Ellen Carrington Show. Already been 2 weeks since this show hit the Spreaker airwaves, and I have to say they've been anything but dull. I'd like to start the show today by plugging a new Facebook page I hope all of you will like. It's called Paper Champions. It's a reality show currently in progress of being developed and pitched to several outlets. I'm going to post a link to that page later on if anyone's interested in checking it out. But yeah, I admit it sounds pretty interesting so far. And on the subject of Facebook pages and likes, I'm so excited. Y'all are probably going to crack me on the head for this because I've mentioned it a few times, but I don't care. I'm so happy about this. The one I helped manage has been on fire this past week. And before I went on the air today, this page I help manage is closing in on 200 likes since April 15th, which was last Monday. And we got almost 40 new likes since yesterday. Check that out right before we hit the air. I have no idea what's causing this surge, but somebody must be doing something right. I'm just checking in on a regular basis, make sure everybody behaves themselves. But so far, things have been great. I only had to ban one person for being a jackass, but hey, you know what? That's life. Happy to say this week's gone better than the last. Last week between fighting with the man a couple times over stupid stuff, writer's block, technical problems with the show, you name it. Murphy's Law was in full effect last week, ladies and gentlemen. But you know what? The worst thing of all was the Boston Marathon tragedy. And compared to all that garbage I went through, that's a major thing. Anything in my life was minor compared to that. Especially when you think about 4 people losing their lives, over 170 people hurt, and 50 of those people are still in the hospital, some of them in critical condition. Life's too short for stupid stuff. You see things like this. It affected me so badly. I actually went to bed Monday night in tears. And I've never been affected so badly by a tragedy, and Lord knows how long. Maybe 9/11. That affected me pretty bad too for several days. But happily, the guys responsible for this are in custody. Well, the one is dead, and the other one is in custody, albeit in the hospital. But you know what? We gotta give kudos and thank yous to Boston law enforcement, all the guys in law enforcement who are involved in catching these people in such a short period. Within 5 days, you guys are amazing. If you don't deserve, if they deserve anything, it's some pay raise and some major kudos, because let me tell you. And on a side note, some Russian diplomats from the U.S., I think that's who they are, they've arrived in Russia to interview the suspect's parents, so that should be interesting how that turns out. And speaking of flying, if you're planning to travel by air, personally, I'm not a flying person. I don't fly unless I have to. That's why they made Amtrak for chicken livers like me. But anyway, thousands or more flights are being delayed due to Congress taking corrective action as the FAA is cutting back operations at 13 major U.S. airports. About 1,200 flights were delayed earlier this week due to the involuntary furloughs of air traffic controllers. And by the way, they're sitting home watching TV. They're not getting paid, okay? So it's pretty bad. 1,400 additional flights were missed due to weather and other factors this week. I don't see Greater Pitt Airport among this mess, which I hope is a good sign, but I will throw up a link to that story for anyone who's interested. And let's talk about stupid human tricks. Now, I know some people think these are hilarious, and hey, let's try them, just for the heck of it. But please, please don't, because unless you're a real moron. I'm sure most of you have heard about the cinnamon challenge, which is basically swallowing a spoonful of cinnamon without water. And the trick has caused many dangerous respiratory issues, among other health problems, with people who've done this. There's a young lady, her name is Deja Reed. She tried the challenge with a frightening result, and now she's speaking out on the issue with her own website. She calls it the No Cinnamon Challenge. And other tricks with consequences have included inhaling condoms through the nose and pulling it out of their mouths. And there's also tricks with vodka. I'll just say they're unmentionable. In case any young people are listening, you're going to get ideas. It ain't going to be off this show. But I would advise to, look up these videos on YouTube. Just type in Cinnamon Challenge or whatever, and familiarize yourself with these, especially if you're parents of, if you're parents and you have children, teenagers who like, hey, this is cool, I'm going to try it. No, I advise you not to, because it's just dangerous. And like anything else, I'll put up the link to Deja's site, and you can read that. You can even read about her story, about what happened to her with the Cinnamon Challenge, and why she's being an advocate against it now. And as a regular routine, I do post links to anything mentioned on all my shows. And I will do the same with today's show, so be sure to check both the wall and the show Facebook page. And some more happy news for me. I started the Maryland Diaries about 2 weeks ago. It's going to be the 4th book in the Cruiserweight series. And as of yesterday evening, I broke the 12,000 word count. I have no idea when this book will be released, but I am aiming for Kindle and Nookbook releases either in late summer or early fall this year. And if you would like to be a guest on our show, you're welcome to contact me through Facebook, Twitter, or even shoot me an email. Appearances are free of charge. Sorry, you don't have to pay, and I can't pay you. Wish I could, but unfortunately I can't. But if you have Skype or Yahoo Messenger, please add me. I interact with all my guests through either account. We'll discuss most anything and everything within reason, I hope, or sometimes not, depending on the day. But if you have something to promote, that's even better. Right now I'm working on booking for someone for early May, in addition to putting together some new topics for discussion. So if you have any ideas you'd like to pitch for my show, send them along for consideration. I try to read everything, even if I can't always respond. And now, while we're discussing guests, Danielle is here from last Wednesday when we ran into some technical problems. So she's taken the time to return today. So far, we're having better luck, and we hope it continues. As I did last week, I'll pop up some links for her show. But, meanwhile, welcome back, Danielle.
Hey,
I hear you got some new exciting news to report. Tell our listeners.
I made a sandwich, so that's the most exciting news. Oh, you mean my book?
Yes.
I think the sandwich might be more exciting at this point.
Tell us about the book.
I have a book coming out in June, June 20th actually. It's called Served. It's a cowboy romance.
Ooh.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, we got a lot of those out there like that.
Well, I haven't prepared the blurb yet. That's one thing that I haven't done. The book's finished. It's been finished. It is with an editor right now. He's looking at it, and hopefully there isn't too much wrong with it. I went through it probably about 9 different times, but you know yourself, when you look at your own book, you tend to rewrite it in your head instead of, on the paper.
Yeah.
Hopefully it isn't too bad, but it's with him right now. I'm looking at June 20th as a release. I'm going to do it on ebook first. I am not sending it to anyone. I'm going to do it myself. So
fantastic. You know what? Self-publishing seems to be the trend nowadays.
Well, I mean, it's a good book. It's not that it's bad. It's not that it's the best book you've ever read. It's a good book, but I just don't want to send it anywhere. I don't know if it's me being lazy or what. Honestly, I think it would get picked up by someone. Probably not a big publisher, but who knows? I think it's better than a lot of the ones I've read from, Harlequin, but at the same time, what the hell? It's my book. Of course I'm going to have some kind of passion about it, but I just don't feel like sending it. I actually want to do it myself. So I'm doing it through my own line called Z Productions.
Ooh.
And, and it's my cowboy line, and I have 2 books coming out this year through it. I'm just going to keep it. It's personally me, self-publishing it. Obviously, I won't be publishing anybody else through Z Productions. Just myself. And I don't know. I'm actually pretty happy with it. Like I said, it's a book about this girl. She gets a job right while she's out of college. She just gets out of college, and she goes and she's working. She went to school to be a paralegal.
Uh-huh.
And she couldn't get a job doing that. And she looked for a job for several months, and she couldn't find anything. And finally her grandmother calls her. And her grandmother says, hey, they have a job at this law office in town. So she gets her hopes up thinking that she's going to get this job, as a paralegal or whatever. And turns out that the job was delivering, like you're serving papers.
Process server.
Yes, process server. Sorry, I'm having a hard time today. It's bad. As you can tell, my medication is not working. I'm taking this new ADD medication, and it is just absolutely not right for me. So if I tend to stutter, that's what's going on. So she's a process server, basically, and she gets her first assignment is to go out to this ranch and serve this rancher, Jake Holton, these papers that he's going to lose his ranch. It's going to get foreclosed on. They're going to take back his lien if he doesn't pay in the next so many days.
Oh boy.
So anyhow, she's on her way out to the ranch. She gets out there, she's looking, and she's just happy. She's happy to have a job. She's excited about this opportunity because they promised her that, if she did, a good job, they would move her up. And, a job's a job at this point, right? Mm-hmm. We've all been there.
Oh, yeah. You know it.
She's just happy to have a job. So anyhow, she goes out to this ranch, and when she gets there, she sees this man, and she sees him right away. And he's riding up on this horse, and sort of takes her breath away, kind of one of those moments where you, look and you just know. And anyway, she looks at him, and she sees him riding up, and then she kind of doesn't know what to say, and she says, I'm looking for Jake Holton, and he sees this envelope in her hand, and he knows what it is, He's been trying to buy time because he's got the money, but it's not going to be there for another week. So if he accepts these papers, he's only got a few days after he accepts these papers, and he knows it. So he's trying to stall her. So she says, Jake Holton here, and he goes, who are you? And then she tells him her name, and then he just kind of looks at her, and then all these guys come out. He's got some ranch hands. They come out, and there's his grandfather, actually. This part's actually kind of funny. He comes out on the porch, and she looks up, and she sees him, and he says, well, hello, and he looks over at him. He says, well, aren't you going to introduce this young lady to me, and Jake, tells him her name, and she turns around, and she asks where Jake is, and the grandfather's eyebrow quirks up, and right as that happens, she steps in a steaming pile of cow crap.
Oh, dear Lord.
And so she's kind of humiliated from that moment, and she's got these beautiful high heels on. I describe them as Manolo Blahniks, She's got these high-dollar shoes on. She comes from a rich family, but she wants to make it on her own, And so this is her first job, She wants to make a good impression, and here she is stepping in it. So she turns around, she's trying not to cry, and she walks towards her car. And when she does it, she mumbles under her breath something, but I'm not going to tell you what it is, because I think it's actually pretty hilarious. And anyway, that's how the beginning of the story starts out.
Ooh.
So it's cute. It's a pretty long romance. It's got a lot in it. It's definitely romance, a lot of cowboys. It has a little bit of mystery, I suppose. There's a murder. There's just some cool stuff about it. I really enjoyed writing this book. I really enjoy reading cowboy romances, and I know there's a couple sex parts in here. There's actually one sex scene There's a lot of lead up, a lot of tension, but it just never seems to happen for her and Jake. So anyway, you're just going to have to read it. June 20th, served, Danielle Zwissler. It'll be up there. So I'm really excited.
Oh, we'll be looking for it. Just remember, y'all, yeah, especially if you like cowboy romances, this will be up your alley.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a good one. You're gonna like it. It's really good.
I'm looking forward to it already.
I think that you're gonna like it. I really do. If you like Linda Lau Miller, if you like books like that, if you like Diana Palmer, if you really are truly into the cowboy romance type books, you will like this book. There's no reason why you wouldn't. I mean, it's got everything that needs to be done. And I haven't read a cowboy romance where anyone served them papers. It was funny. I was at work, and I work at this horse ranch, and I've done a lot of research on this, and I have 2 cowboy books coming out this summer. Served is the first. The second one is called Cowboy Up, and that's all about my adventures on the horse ranch, River Run Horse Ranch, and it's definitely interesting. So I think that you'll like it. I mean, there's a lot of truth to it. Working around horses and understanding what they have to do on those ranches actually is a lot more than I first thought. But after getting the job and knowing what they do, there's so much more respect for ranching and farming now. I mean, you can't even imagine.
Oh, sure. You write about something and you go do the research, and of sorts, in your case, working at a horse ranch, you kind of get a new perspective on what they do. It was kind of like when I started writing my novels. Actually, for The Cruiserweight's Daughter, I actually audited a wrestling school class. And I had an idea of how, and I talked to a couple people who used to be trainers online, and that's how I did my research. And I'm like, wow, these guys really go through, hoops. And, it's not an easy thing, and just like horse ranching, it's not an easy thing. You see it on TV and say, oh my goodness, that's so glamorous. Until you step in the horse poop or whatever, and you're slopping the barns or whatever you have to do. And I'm like, ooh, this isn't so great. But you got a lot more respect for it because you know what actually goes on.
I was actually surprised that there wasn't a lot of smell at this place. And believe it or not, folks, if you've never worked at a ranch, if you've never worked at a horse ranch, you would probably not know this. There are different kinds of shavings that they can put into a stall, and this one's sort of like, if you've ever like sawdust, or if you've seen the guinea pig shavings, like in a store. Yeah. That's what they put at this horse farm that I work in. Yeah, they put that down. They don't put hay down. Hay actually holds the smell in, and that's why it stinks so bad.
Yeah. I mean, if you smell wet hay, it's going to stink anyway.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to. But and I didn't know that at all. I know it sounds ridiculous, like, oh, who cares? But it's one of those things that I could not have accurately described had I not worked at that farm. I had no idea of that. Going up there, and everybody was laughing. They're like, oh, you're going to smell terrible. And I was thinking, oh, God, I'm going to stink, because I have to pick my kids up after school. And the first day when I went up, they were showing me how to muck up the stalls. And believe it or not, it's not hard, okay? It's just, it hurts your shoulders and your arms, like your forearms. Mm-hmm. It really does. It does work. Your thighs, like if you stand at a certain angle, it is really good for you. I've actually went down a pant size since I started working there.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it did have its benefits. Yeah, it's amazing because the way you have to bend and everything else, your whole body is working at it. You work at it pretty hard when you're doing this. And one stall would take, a good amount of time, depending on, like, what kind of horse you have and, like, where it goes, But, yeah, the smell is not bad when they have the shaving. But with the hay, it's gone awful. I was afraid it was going to smell like the fair. You know how you smell that? but it didn't. You would never even known that you were in a farm, like you were in a barn at all. You never would have even known.
Wow.
It's really that it's not noticeable. It's crazy.
Breaking here on a side note, we do have a thunderstorm coming through in Pittsburgh, so if we go off the air all of a sudden without warning, chances are I probably had a power outage, but hopefully that won't happen in the time we have left, so keep your fingers crossed.
Oh yeah, that is nuts. I mean, it's crazy here. It's like starting to thunder here, so yeah, it could be either way if I lose you. But it started to rain here a little while ago.
Yeah, it's raining here right now, and there was a few rumbles. My cats are in hiding, except the one. He's under the table watching everything.
So I gotta ask you, I asked this on my radio show today, does the grocery store freak you out?
Not really. It depends on when I go. Not really. I kind of try to avoid it around the first of the month, because I think that's when all the crazies come out of the woodwork. Yeah. I mean, if you have Welfare Day on the 1st and Social Security Day on the 3rd, let me tell you, I'll take Social Security Day if I have to go, because I think that's the lesser of two evils. Because the first day of the month is just plain nuts. I'm like, I don't go that day unless I absolutely have to. Otherwise, yeah. I'm like, oh, otherwise I'll be like, oh God, get me out of here.
You know, we went to the grocery store, and there were so many weirdos there, and I actually, I was annoyed with my children, which I know it sounds terrible, but I was annoyed with my children because I kept saying, you know, like, get over here by the cart, get right here beside this cart. You know, people were, this one guy just gave me the creeps, was like looking at the kids. I'm like, ugh. So I told my husband, I said, just take the kids outside, I'll finish grocery shopping, and he hesitated. He's like, well, I don't want to leave you in here by yourself. I said, don't worry about me. I'm more worried I don't want people looking. You know, even if it was like they just were looking, they gave me the creeps. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's going to raise a red flag with anybody.
Yeah, it really did give me the creeps.
Because there's, so many kids have been taken from public places nowadays. You can't, I tell people on my show about things. You can't be too careful.
Well, it's like, like you say, you can't be too careful, but now they're getting so brave about it.
Exactly.
They're going right up to you while you're holding your kid's hand and taking these kids.
Uh-huh.
There was a guy at the mall down here in Akron, and he actually went up to a woman's kid and grabbed his hand and went to yank him out of her hands, and she cracked him one. I mean, she did. She knocked him over.
Hey, good job, Mom.
But, yeah, I mean, this guy, he had taken, I think it was 3 or 4 kids. He's, attempted to abduct them from this mall. It's like, are you serious? And what I couldn't understand is he was never caught.
Oh,
and then finally, this woman, she took her purse from the other hand, and she clobbered him, which I thought was fantastic. But, yeah, isn't it terrible?
Yeah. Well, hey, you want to take the kids? Mama's going to put up a good fight. I mean, that's instinct.
Oh, I'm not.
At least for most mothers, that's instinct. There's a few out there that probably wouldn't have cared less, but that's probably about less than 1%.
Right. Well, I tell you what, you try to grab my kid, you're gonna be
dead. You're gonna be dead.
Yeah, there's gonna be something wrong. You're gonna be hurting. I don't know. So, what you want to talk about, lady?
Okay, about 6 minutes left here. Another thing, talking about the news, I was reading a story, this was on a local news the other day. I was on TV, and of course, the news station has a website where you comment and do things. And there was this lady, her ex-boyfriend, back in February, it's a domestic violence situation. He threw perfume on her and set her on fire.
What?
Yeah, and by the grace of God, she survived. She's still recovering from her injuries, but let me tell you, this lady was brave. I believe his preliminary hearing was Monday. They're going to hold him for trial, praise the Lord. But she faced him, and she testified at that preliminary hearing. Now, here's what made me mad. They were an interracial couple, obviously. For anyone who didn't know that, I want to throw it out there. But the comments under this story were horrible. I mean, why didn't these people just write, hey, she got what she deserved because she, quote unquote, didn't stay with her own kind? You know what? And that's just burnt me to no end. Because, I come from a family, whose bigotry would have put Archie Bunker to shame. Okay? And I always made a pact with myself, I'm going to try to be as tolerant as possible. Because we need to do that. I mean, skin color had nothing to do with what happened. And in an argument with this lady, the guy held her 3-month-old daughter out a second-story window. And that really set me off. Because, you know what? And come on, people, race has nothing to do with this, okay? Men of all races are going to be violent.
Everybody wants to bitch about that stuff.
Exactly. Come on, this is the 21st century. This isn't the 50s. Let it go. Oh, I could go on all night about that. But, it really chapped me to no end. But I really admired her for going there and facing him in that preliminary hearing, because so many victims of domestic violence, sometimes they want to drop the charges the next day.
Yeah,
and it's sad.
I don't get that, but...
Well, I don't either, but, some people think, things aren't going to get better, and maybe the guy will change. I'm like, ladies, look, he's not going to change. If he's violent toward you before marriage, do yourself a favor. Run. Because it's only going to get worse. Believe me, I was in one of those relationships, and I am so grateful I got out when I did. And that was 14 years ago.
Yeah, that's terrible. I've never been in an abusive relationship. I did get hit once from a boyfriend, and then I broke his nose. That was
Woo!
I didn't put up with that.
Yeah. But I always said, again, if anybody tried that again, and I made this known to the man, I'm like, you even lay a finger on me and I don't like it, I'm kicking you to the curb. Because I'm not putting up with that again. I went through it once. There's not going to be a second time. I mean, there's days I want to crack him upside the head, but I'm not thinking about killing him or anything. But I told him, lay one finger on me, or I found out you run around on me, you're going to the curb, buddy. There's no funny business here.
Well, what's funny? We were just talking about that, but did you see on the Virgin America, the flight, they're now launching a new in-flight service, allows you to pinpoint where a passenger is.
Ooh.
It's like it's flirting. You flirt with a passenger on the airplane.
Wow.
I mean, like, as if, what's funny to me is that, they don't want you to, join the Mile High Club, but yet they're having a flirting.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, that just encourages the Mile High Club thing.
Yeah.
You would think that they would just get over it and have, like, a bedroom on the actual planes now. Like, just have one room with a bed, and you could rent it out.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
You think?
I mean, it's going. It happens. Why not just, make a little money off the side from it? Rent that bedroom out.
Well, they should make airplanes like trains.
Yeah.
And they should have, like how they have the train cars.
Sleeper cars, yeah.
Yeah, but they should like put little partitions in between the seats to make them more private.
There you go.
That way too. See, it's a good idea. That way, if there was any kind of weird terrorism thing, they would have bulletproof, doors. Oh. See, I just took it to a whole new level.
Okay. We got under a minute left, so I want you to hang on for a minute. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk more about some good stuff. So hang in there, folks.